Happy New Year. Happy beginning of 2021, Kind Faith community. We're glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. And we're excited to talk about mistakes we made. Actually, are we excited about that?
No, we're not excited about that.
No, it's planning the podcast is a real treat. We get to talk about old triggers. Lots of old triggers. But good, because we're really passionate about helping couples thrive. And there's some simple things that we want to talk about to help us in this new year step in and really develop our marriages and our relationships in a healthy way and let go of habits that have hurt us over time and don't have to.
They're just not helpful.
Yeah. So we're going to go through the next few weeks in the episodes, mistakes we made that that we hope you don't make. You don't make. But we're going to talk about this first one is fighting to be right.
Fighting to be right. Everybody does it.
Everybody does it.
Who doesn't want to be right?
So tell us a story about a certain memory that I had about an event, and I wrote you out of it.
Oh my goodness. So we were going over some pictures that we had, and we were at the Miramar Air Show, and we had taken our son, and he was really young, like 5-ish. And so I took this picture, and it's like, that's a great picture. I love that picture that I took because I had, it was just how it was captured was really awesome of my son's face. And so Jeff looks at me and he goes, I took that picture. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, you weren't at the air show. And it was like this complete elimination of me. And I literally thought, I wondered, was I there? And it's like, I knew I was there. And so I literally looked in this photograph. I zoomed in on my son's face, and in his sunglasses was me taking a picture of him. And I go, look, I'm right there. There's my hat.
But here's the deal. We weren't even fighting that day. It was a great day. There was no reason for me to have eliminated her from this story. In fact, in this moment right now, as I access the tapes of my memory, I'm still convinced that it was just Caleb and I at this event and not Marci. I just don't have those memories, but there's picture proof that she was there. And here's why we're talking about this, and it's so important. We learned this actually relatively recently from my man crush, Malcolm Gladwell. I am a Malcolm Gladwell fan. He did an episode. He did an episode on his podcast, Revisionist History, which we'll put a link to down below. It was a podcast called Freeing Brian Wilson, and he was the broadcaster who ended up getting he got fired, lost his job, the whole thing, because he misremembered what happened with him in the Iraq War and reported falsely according to it. And Malcolm went into talking about the fact that every time we access a memory, that memory changes and shifts. Mm-hmm. And there was research that was done right at 9/11. When 9/11 happened, memory researchers went in and asked questions of people and asked, where were you when it happened? Who were you with? What were you doing right before 9/11 happened? And what were you doing right after? Questions like that. And then asked them the same questions the next day, the next year.
Right.
And a year later, their answers were completely different, right?
I'm remembering it that they asked it twice.
So
yes,
good.
a year later,
their
answers were completely different.
Their answers were different. And some of them went so far as to say, I don't know why I lied the day I answered the
September
questions
11th.
a year ago.
They were so convinced they were wrong.
They were so convinced they had remembered it rightly a year later as opposed to the year of. Shocking reality for how our memory works. Right. And for us, it's become an actual incredible gift because we used to consistently, I used to more consistently than anybody, correct Marci's stories.
That's never happened to any of you.
No. We would correct stories. So she'd be in the middle of telling a story, maybe in public, maybe just at the dinner table, and I would correct the facts. No, it didn't happen that way. No, why?
An entire song was written about that. I say potato, you say potato, tomato, tomato, potato, potato.
Pretty sure that was about pronunciation and not about memory, but we're rolling with it.
Oh no, it was Maurice Chevalier. Yes, I remember it well. It was spring, it was June, whatever. Anyway, it was in Gigi. For those of you,
right?
Like we said, memory's plastic. I didn't even get the reference right.
So why do we fight over, and why do we undermine each other by questioning the facts about what we're saying and remembering? There's two big points to this. The first one is it shows disrespect.
Yeah.
When Marci's in the middle of telling a story, or I'm in the middle of telling a story, and she corrects one of my facts, or I correct one of her facts, it's disrespectful. Mm-hmm. And sure, you want to say the truth matters, but let's be honest. How well do you remember it? I was absolutely convinced she wasn't at the Miramar Air Show, and she was. So I could have fought. We could have had a fight for a month about that fact. Yeah. And did it matter? It didn't matter. So we have this opportunity to show radical respect. In fact, we have a scripture verse we want to share along those lines.
Romans 12:10. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. And remember, I think it was our second podcast or third, we talked about honoring your spouse by getting up when they come home, when they walk in the door. You took vows with them. You'd get up for the Amazon Prime guy. Why wouldn't you get up for your husband or spouse or wife or child when they come home? But honoring is important, and not correcting what someone's saying. Just let it go. I mean, let the story be told. And I just think about so many parents who correct their children, and yet their child is trying to mm-hmm. tell a story, and it's a shaming thing. Yeah. So to just let them have this stage, and who cares? And at least they're talking. And there are so many parents who would wish that their child could talk. Mm-hmm. So
and at some point, right, facts do matter, but
right, in a court of law.
But in our world, what we've discovered is that 90% of the time, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
And so there is a disrespect and a shaming that comes around facts. But then there's this deeper reality that comes, which is when I correct you around something, I sidetrack the heart of the real issues at play. So especially in fights. So one of my memories when we early on fought was we would begin to fight, and then somehow it was me, it was Marci, who knows how it all played out, but somehow the fight became about the facts of what actually happened as opposed to what we were trying to communicate about in the first place. So it became, you didn't say that. You said it this way. You said that. And now we're fighting about what we said, and we aren't actually dealing with the core issue.
Which is avoidance.
Yeah, so fighting for right is a huge sidetracker to getting to the heart of the issue. And we've come... taking great strides together in the past couple years. And this isn't, by the way, something we've been doing for decades. This is the past few years where we've discovered that if we let this go, we actually do such a better job of hearing one another and addressing the issues that we're struggling with and actually making progress toward health and growth.
Right. And one of our Bible verses that we kind of mockingly have as a constant joke in our family is pride goes before the fall.
That's Old Testament. Old Testament.
And it's true. When you're so trying to be right, and then you get taken out by zooming in on somebody's picture and like, I was there, and it's like...
I wasn't even trying to be right. I was so convinced that you weren't there.
Yeah, I was really important at the air show. The jets were the important part. Go Navy.
Kind of true.
So anyway, but that's true. It's a matter of pride. It's also a matter of shame, and we do want to honor each other. And honoring in a marriage it's key. And and when we're honoring our spouse, we're honoring God, because who gave that spouse to us? Before time began, God knew that Jeff was going to be my spouse, and he caused him to be. And he thought, I think that's going to be a wonderful blend. And so when I'm dishonoring Jeff, or vice versa, we're dishonoring the person that God picked for us. So it's kind of a slap in God's face.
That's a really good point. And I think for me, what you said that is most significant about this whole issue is humility. It really boils down to, can I humble myself enough to say that I probably don't remember it right? We're going to be dead set convinced we are. Because in the air show example, I literally have no memory of Marci being there. So
I must have been dressed really bad that day.
But the brain science is that those neurons just turned off for whatever reason. It's not emotional. There wasn't an agenda. Just by the physics and the biochemistry of it, our brains stop remembering things, and sometimes it's people. And so to have the humility to say, my brain is not a perfect recorder of facts.
Right.
So I'm going to let this person I love actually have the floor for the facts and release my right to be right. So walk humbly. Walk humbly. Communicate humbly. And one way to do that is to release that right to be right, and not try to fight for the facts, and honor your spouse. Don't correct them, and weigh that. Sometimes facts are important, so we're not saying ignore it all the time, but really check it and weigh it.
Right. And honoring each other it's not just honoring, it's take delight in honoring. Take delight in it. And I think that's important too.
Yeah. So we hope this is helpful for the beginning of the new year, especially as you're trying to not remember 2020. So I think all of us would like our neurons to stop remembering 2020, but we are praying that you have a great 2021. And remember to comment on this. We love your comments. If you've got questions, we'd like to answer your questions. So if you've got questions or pushback, we want to hear that. So you can write that in the comments below. We'll get you links for Malcolm Gladwell's stuff and for the scripture in this podcast, so that you can look that up and follow up with it. Thank you for being here. Like us if you're on YouTube. And if you're listening to this, make sure you rate our podcast.
I think that's it.
All right. Take us home.
Have kind faith.
Let's be kind.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great week.